Tyler was, yeah, Rick Tyler was the spokesperson for Ted Cruz during his presidential campaign. He was Newt's guy for a period of time. He is a card-carrying, fabulous guy and a much better instructor than I am. So, Rick Tyler.
And just a side note, guys, if you are interested in this deck, just make sure you get with Allie or myself, and just email us, and we'll be able to forward it to you. Okay. Rick, did you want me to switch to the comms deck now?
Yeah.
All right, you got it.
And I'm not smart enough to operate on my.
Do you want to swap? Take this one. It's fine.
Maybe how's that? Okay, see. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you all for coming. By the way, she's not in the room. Councilwoman's advice. It's usually a elected leader will come, and speak before me and screw everything up. That was the finest, most concise, most practical presentation for a candidate I've ever heard. It was do that. And now Mark and I are just going to make it more complicated. Let's go to the first slide. All right, so I want you to understand a couple of things. Understanding transformational change, designing it, and 14 communications principles. We are part of a movement, right? It's bigger than us. It's bigger than the party. It's bigger than our individual races. We are a center-right movement. The interesting thing about communicating a center-right movement, set of ideas and objectives and policies, is that we're so bad at it. We have an attractive governing philosophy that changes people's lives for the better, and we can't communicate it. It's really astonishing. So one of my messages is to fix that, change this. So here's my visual of how big, large-scale change occurs, and it all occurs through communications. So let's start here, over on the left. Now, that is a picture of Mark Campbell's house. Well, to be fair, that's his second home.
That's my summer home.
Yep. What is this? This is how most of the world lives. Half the world lives on $20 a day. And that's how they live. Now, do the people here live here, are they less smart than we are? No. What they lack is opportunities created by political decisions. Political decisions. So a politician can make any place poor, it can make any place rich. You can see it sometimes, especially around here, when you're in a neighborhood and everybody's having dinner on the street, families are getting together, and it's all wonderful, and then you wander off a few blocks in the wrong direction, and things get kind of bleak real fast. Why is that? They're within blocks of each other. Politicians. Because politicians can make any place rich and any place poor. This is Maui. Maui is a beautiful place. It still is and will be again. But Maui I'm using here to represent the promised land. Okay? Now you'll notice there's this mountain between here and here because the people who live here can't see this. So when politicians tell you about a wonderful place to go, do people believe them? No. And most of the time, politicians don't even understand the idea of vision, so they don't even tell people what it is they want, where they want to take them. Most people are not visionaries. They can't tell you, this is how everything, but they know when it sounds right. And they know when the campaign means well. And they know when the candidate is genuine. Some of the restaurants that you have here I admire because they're just some of the best in the world. And you can go to some of these fine dining restaurants, and you can take a string and run it across all the tables in the room, all the way down. And that string will touch the same wine glass place in the class. Do customers notice that? Probably not. But what they notice is the quality and the care that somebody put in to that. You know you're in a special place. Our campaign should be like that. Our teams should be like that, to attract people to a governing vision. Let me tell you why this is hard. Because when you're trying to get people from here to here, and we'll just say this represents policy, okay, from this policy to this policy, they don't understand what this policy is going to do for them because no one describes it to them. But while you're trying to change the policy, you actually have to maintain all the systems here until people decide on their own that we'd rather live here. Now, let me ask you a question. Once the politician takes, this is hard work, by the way. Once the politician takes them up and gets them to realize their vision, and they start to descend the mountain and they live here, is anybody going back here? No. Why would they? So if my vision is for everyone to, we'll talk about education. If my vision is that no poor child should miss out on an opportunity to get the finest quality education they can, right? First of all, does anybody disagree with that? I just want to check it. Okay, all right. So I want to show them the vision that will get them the highest quality education quickly, right? Because we can't lose a child. We can't plan for 10 years because then the kids graduate, right? It's still too late. But I have to maintain all the old systems until people tell me I want the new system. That's really hard work. So when I hear Republicans go out and say, I want to abolish the Department of Education tomorrow, what does the voter hear? You're anti-education. That's what the left says. Now you can convince people over time that the Department of Education is actually detrimental to children's education and not beneficial to education. But if they believe it's beneficial, then you don't tell them it's not until they prove it over time. You have to take people, you have to meet them where they are and build on the good ideas. And then you can bring them here. And once they're here, they never go back. I would give every poor child a coupon for a free education in any school they want to go to. Parochial, public, wherever they want to go. Why did I say coupon? What's the other word people use? Voucher? Anybody use a voucher today? How about yesterday? Last week? Last year? Has anybody ever used a voucher? If people don't know what something is, I can define it any way I want. How about coupons? Y'all like coupons? Everybody use a coupon? You know people use coupons? Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Not as much, but electronic coupons.
Yeah.
You put them in all the time. Come on. So a reporter once asked me, he said, Rick, what's the difference between a voucher and coupons? So people like coupons. And it's really that simple. Find out what people like, that you can relate to them. Stop trying to educate them into something that's just, find an example that works. And let the left argue why they can't have a free coupon for free education. That's the burden of their position. And you should always make sure the left has the burden of their position. Every public policy has a victim. Our public policies have victims. Their public policies have victims. The left is really good at describing the victims of our policies. We are terrible at describing the victims of the left's policies. So we have to describe terms of what does it mean to real people? What does that policy mean to people? We'll use some more examples as we go. Okay. So keeping with the vision, I like vision. Your candidate and your campaign has a vision. So what's your vision for your district? What's your vision for your borough? What's your vision for New York? What's your vision for children's education? Or whatever the themes are that you're running on. And to describe them in a way that people say, I want that. Oh my gosh, I heard that she was a Republican. But I'm going to vote for her anyway because I like this big idea. That the idea is bigger and transcends the idea of identity politics. It's that you have a vision. Now when you have a vision, you got to figure out the strategies to get people to realize the vision. Vision can be very large things and it can be very small things. A party may have a vision. And then we have to have the strategies that fulfill the vision of the party. I mean a birthday party, not the political party, right? Very simple things. then they have projects. As Mark was describing, every project is the final delegatable achievement. Someone must be in charge of it. Not so we can blame them when it all goes wrong. But as you know, if nobody's in charge of a project, what happens? Nothing. If too many people are in charge of a project, or it's ambiguous who's in charge of the project, what happens? Nothing. Right? So make sure somebody's in charge of the project. What are tasks? Tasks go on your calendar. There are things you write on the calendar. Pick up the invitations on Tuesday. Mail the invitations on Wednesday. Or organize the party to mail the invitations on Wednesday and mail them on Thursday. And like at any event, you have to start at the event date and work all your tasks backwards on a calendar. Same with election day, you gotta work everything backwards, and all those tasks go on the calendar. So when you have a vision, you go through this, then you gotta listen. And this is really important for candidates. Don't start by talking. Find out what people care about. If people understand, they have an appreciative understanding that I'm actively listening to what you care about, they won't even care about your issues. They will trust you to know that you care about listening to them, that for them it's real. Why? Because people are experts on all kinds of things that we're not experts on. They're experts about their neighborhoods, they're experts about their job, their specialty or whatever it is they do for a living. All of these things you can learn. And when you learn from people, they will inevitably tell you something that you can help them with. That's just a mindset. How do I figure out how this person is described? If you listen, people will tell you their problems. You all know that, right? If you listen, they will tell you their problems. That's an opportunity to help them. There are people in your community who are doing this all the time because they are raising money for the charity. They're cleaning up the neighborhood. They're organizing. They're doing all those things. And those are the people that are doing those things that we actually want to lead. And those are the people, when they're already doing those things, like Mark was saying, volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. They want to see that, because if you're already listening, learning, and helping in the community, and then you say, well, I'm going to run for city council, and they'll say, well, of course you're going to run for city council, because you're already doing all those other things in the community. It just makes sense. This is great. And then you have people to raise an army, and then go back to, this is my vision. And it just starts all over again. Okay, next slide. So focus on the right vision. Without a vision, that army that the councilwoman described is very hard to assemble. Because they're not just assembling it for the one person, right? They're assembling it because they want to be a part of something that's real, that's something that makes something happen. And so the vision always becomes the attracting, organizing force. It's where people get excited to raise money. It's where people get excited to join the team and to organize. So that becomes the organizing force, is the vision. Next slide. Think of large-scale change, not small things. The left loves to point out, little differences. Oh, it's just a penny on a can of Coca-Cola. What's the big deal? Yeah, the big deal is because all those pennies add up to billions of dollars that you'll spend on, social programs that don't do any good, in fact, hurt people. So, lions, I use this example, lions are hypercarnivores. In order to survive, they must eat large game. So they have to eat antelopes, zebras, things like this. You've all seen nature shows. If they just hunted chipmunks and caught them all day long, a lion would still starve to death. So Reagan had 3 big ideas. What were they? 3 big ideas that Reagan was about.
National defense.
National defense. He wanted to defeat the Soviet Empire. He called them an evil empire, and he wanted to defeat them. Okay, that's one. What's the next one?
Beat inflation.
He wanted to reestablish the American economy as a powerhouse economy because it was suffering, right? What was the last one?
Revolution.
What's that?
Devolution.
Say it again.
He wanted devolution.
Yeah, and return power back to the people. But he wanted the American people to believe in themselves again. Okay? National security, the economy, get people how'd Reagan do?
Pretty good.
Pretty damn good. Like, knocked it out of the park on those three huge big ideas, right? Now, Jimmy Carter, God bless him, he's 100 years old. He was scheduling, the tennis courts, that was important to him. He was focused on small things. Focus on large things, and then don't get distracted by chipmunks. James Baker became the largest chipmunk collector in American history when all these chipmunks would run into the Oval Office, and Reagan would pat them on the head and say, "You're a wonderful chipmunk." Meet James Baker, who would usher them out of the Oval Office and get them away from Reagan. Don't get distracted by the small problems. Figure out what you want to do. I don't care who you want to be. I care what you want to do. Figure out what you want to do. Stick to those three things that you want to get done. Make sure everybody knows what you want to get done, and get people involved to want to help you get them done. Next slide. Win the public. This happens all the time. We're talking somehow. This probably should say New York. We must have been in Europe. But your idea is not to win over the press or the elite, all the important people. Remember, all your communications, whether you're public speaking, you're on television, or through the media, you're talking to the voter. And I see campaigns lose track of this all the time. They're trying to one-up the other team, or they're trying to make a little inside joke on the other communications director. That's meaningless to the voter. The voter wants to understand how is it going to make my life different. So don't worry about what the reporter thinks. Your job is never to convince them. This would actually drive me crazy with Ted Cruz, because he would try to win an argument with a reporter, or we'd be doing an interview, and I'd be whispering in his hand, "Ted, give him a quote so he can go home." Let's just get out of here. What do you want him to write down? Right? We don't need to win this debate. Just give him a quote so he can put it in the story. That's all he wants. Just give it to him. Let's get out of here, right? So frame the issues that you're winning the debate despite the coverage. People are smart. They can read through a story. When George W. Bush had this $400 taxable refund, do you remember that? Does anyone remember that? You ungrateful people. So during his administration, everybody got a $400 rebate on it, virtually everybody, on their taxes. And if you were a husband and wife, you got $800, right? And the New York Times, of course, had a terrible headline of mismanagement of funds and buying all this terrible stuff. But the average person read that and said, "Hey, honey, we're getting $800 back." I always liked that George Bush, right? Despite all the terrible headlines, it had a great result, right? So read through it. Pick the right fights. And I'll get into this a little bit later. Sometimes the thing you want to run on is not the thing you should run on. It just isn't. A small example is let's say you want to back the blue. I want to back the blue. I'm going to run on back the blue. But your opponent, who's already in power, is a former sheriff, and he always votes for the blue. Is that a good contrast with your opponent? No. In fact, why should I fire him, hire you, if he's already doing what you say you want done? It makes no sense. The other thing is, don't pick issues where there's too much education to do. And this is hard for people to grasp, because the civics-minded people like me, they want to say, "Oh my goodness, I got to educate people about that." You don't have time to educate people. You don't have the money to educate people. That's other people's job. That's my job. I'll go out and do that, okay? Find issues where people already agree with you and the opponent doesn't agree with you, and run on those things. And make sure they're 80-20, 70-30, 60-40 it's getting too expensive and too hard, it takes too long, right? So pick issues that the community is already with you, they already want the change, and you'll champion that change. Next slide. All right, Mark said someone in his presentation, if you remember nothing else, please remember this, right? Okay, so this is one of those moments for me in my presentation. Speak first about values. Don't talk about issues. I'll tell you why. If I walk into a room and I say, hi, I'd like to talk to you today about the abortion issue. Here's what happens. You split the room in half immediately. Half the room is for you, half the room is against you. And when you leave, the side that was for you is for you, and the room that's against you is still against you. Have we made any progress? No. If you walk into a room, you can talk to different audiences using different language, but never compromise your principle, never say the same thing. So if we talked about something like Social Security, national issue, not a New York issue, but talking about Social Security. If I come into the room with seniors, they're all on Social Security. Hi, I'd like to talk to you about changing Social Security. Do you know what will happen to you? They will beat you with their walkers. You will not leave the room. That's dangerous. Don't do it. Okay? Hi, I wanted to talk to you about an idea. But first, I want to reassure you, if you're all on Social Security, if you were born before 1950, Social Security is a sacred promise and trust, and everybody who has it and is on it should get that Social Security. No one wants to change that. I don't want to change that. Okay, this guy's all right. I don't want to change my Social Security. Put your walk our way. We're not going to pay you. We're not going to beat this guy. But I do want to talk to you about Social Security for your grandkids, because the way it's structured now, I don't think it's going to be there for them. And I think we need to do something to make sure that they have the same security that you have. Okay, you notice what I did? So I got the room. Anybody in sales? You all do sales. You talk about feature benefits. You ever talk about feature benefits? Feature is something a product has, like this table. It's not a product. Yeah, it's like really soft, or it's a feature. Or no, actually, the feature would be like this is made of 600 count linen or whatever it is. Or I have a vacuum cleaner, right? And I have two of them. One is a 15 amp motor and one has a 12 amp motor. Is that meaningful to anybody? How about the electricians in the room? Is that meaningful to you? Yeah. So we don't talk about features. In public policy, we don't talk about policy, right? We talk about benefits. Because if someone says, well, which vacuum cleaner is better? This one's better. Why? Because it will vacuum up more dirt in less time. Is that important to people? Yes. Now if they say, well, why is that? Now I get to use my product knowledge, right? And if you get asked about policy, then that's wonderful. Then you get to talk about your policy. You should know the policy better than anybody. But you don't talk about it unless you're asked about it. You talk about the benefits of policy. Why is it better for you? And you really do have to spell it out. If you say, I want to cut your taxes, you know what, that's not good enough. Because people think, it just doesn't connect. The reason I want to cut your taxes, so at the end of the pay period, you'll have more money in your paycheck. For you, your family, your church, your synagogue, to go on nicer vacations, for the first business that you're saving, save for your child's education. Put it in real terms of what the benefit of that tax cut is. Not just, I want to cut your taxes, right? It is that you're putting people back in charge of their own lives. So we always start by talking about the value where we get agreement. So we say, on Social Security, you say, I believe no American should retire into poverty. Does anybody, I just checking, anybody disagree with that? Do we have Americans here who want people to retire into poverty? Well, Mark does, okay. All right, that's fine, there's always one. But most people would say, that's reasonable, that'd be great. Yeah, most people shouldn't retire into poverty. And then my idea would be to transfer or to figure out how people, here's what I would do. I would give every poor person a personal Social Security account, and I wouldn't take them out of the current system. Do you know why? Because people don't stay poor. This is the big lie on the left, right? There are chronic poor, and there's plenty of money to help them if we could get all the other people out of the way, right? There are people who always need help, and we should help them. But if you gave every poor person a personal Social Security account, when they worked, their money would go into a personal bank account. Here's the secret. Capitalism sucks if you don't have any capital, right? Capitalism is not a very attractive philosophy if you don't have capital. So you get people capital. And then our wonderful conservative ideas prove themselves over time. Because if somebody's working and money goes into their account week after week after week after week after week, and it's actually compounding and it's raising money, and then all of a sudden they're not poor, what's going to happen? We're going to cut them off. And And what do you think the conversation between them and their politician is gonna be? You know, I kinda like that system where you put the money in my account and it stayed there and it was mine. And when I died, I could give it to my kids. And the politician would say, oh wait, you mean you want a personal social security account? Well, I've been for that all the time. I don't know why these politicians have, right? That's what happens. You build a parade, it will come. You build the army, they will come. They will come. Don't wait for permission. Go and do it. Build the army. Build a system of ideas that prove themselves over time. And then we can talk about, we may never get to the issue, but introduce your value first, get agreement on the value, everybody's going, yeah, that's good, I like that. Now what's my idea? Now I'm open to the idea. The room, I didn't divide the room. Next slide. What are these ideas? Well, it turns out they're pretty much all the same all the time. They're no particular order. My personal health and safety, what are the issues? Crime, big, right? All encompassing. What else?
Illegal immigration.
Illegal immigration, right? That could be there too. What else?
Fentanyl. Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, the drug crisis, right? All that's in there. Healthcare, right? It's a huge issue. Drug prices, access to care, hospitals, all of it. It's all in this thing. So why did we hear so much about it? Because people care about it, right? So we have to understand how to talk about it. Knowing my retirement years will be secure, my financial security, better relationship with family. What does this mean in terms of an issue, public policy? Okay, women, help me out. It's a 4-letter word, begins with T. Time, T-I-M-E, time. Time. Why is time important? Well, because if I'm working 3 jobs, I don't have time. What if I got a higher paying single job? Or I could work at home and figure out more ways to spend with my family. That's what people care about. How do I point to policies to get people to spend more time with their family? Better relationship with God, more satisfying job. That doesn't always mean more money. Better education for my children, that's public education, this is private education, being able to afford college, and being able to own my own home, which is a huge issue right now. Because rents are crazy, mortgage rates are record highs, and mortgage rates wouldn't be too bad at 7% if we didn't just have another $100,000 average home price increase over the last whatever number of years. I mean, so you can't afford the house and you can't afford the mortgage. And that's going to be really tough for a lot of young people just starting out. All right, next slide. Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. Politics is actually personal. It's what matters to me and my family. One thing that we don't do very well, I think, in the conservative movement is we don't tell stories. Because we don't talk about the victims of their policies. The interesting thing about stories are, when appropriate, and there's enough time to tell a story, a politician can get up and give a speech and rattle off all kinds of statistics. And it might be a rousing speech and people just loved it. But when the person goes home that night, the spouse says, honey, how was the speech? Oh, it was great. Well, what did they talk about? Something about the economy. Yeah, it was just terrific, right? But if you tell a story, a compelling story, they can repeat that story word for word, as if they'd memorized the speech. Isn't that strange? Why is that? Why can't we remember a story and tell it over? Because it connects here.
Because it's the
Yeah.
truth.
So we connect. A lot of us on the right connect here, but most people connect here. And once you connect here, you can change here. But we never go for here. We're logos, they're pathos. And yet, all of these there's so many great stories. Tell the stories. People remember them. Okay, next. So, your campaign has to be about 3 things. Contrast, or it's about nothing at all. I'm thinking of one word that describes what an election is. What do you think it is? One word.
Referendum.
Huh?
Referendum.
A referendum? Okay. Yes, who said that? It's a choice. It's a choice. So, let me pick on Ron DeSantis for a second. If Ron DeSantis says, elect me because I'll enact all of Donald Trump's policies. Well, why don't we just elect Donald Trump to vote? Like, is there a contrast there? Like, you know, his pack is called Never Back Down. Has Trump ever back down? I don't think so. I mean, what do you, maybe, hey Ron, I got an idea. Why don't you run against him? Yeah, that'll work. You know, it's you gotta have a contrast. You gotta have a choice. And so, if an election is about a choice, then you gotta give the voters a choice. This isn't hard. This is really easy stuff. You gotta give them a choice. And if the election is about a choice, then all of your communication must be about what?
Contrast.
Hmm?
Differences.
Yes, it has to be persuasion. All of your communication must be about persuasion. And here's the candidate's job. You only get to do 3 things. Because there's a mechanical side of a campaign and there's a message side of a campaign. Does it make sense that the candidate is sorting lists, stuffing envelopes, putting postage on envelopes? Does that make sense to anybody? Is that the best use of the candidate's time? No. What is the best use of the candidate's time?
You have to do people.
Meeting voters, convincing people to vote for you. The second is getting more help, so recruiting volunteers, and the third is raising money. That's your job as a candidate. That's it. If you're doing anything, it's like, is this, now, if you're writing a fundraising letter, say, well, I'm raising money. No, you're not. If I can get somebody else to do that just as well or better, then that's not a candidate function. That is a waste of the candidate's time. The candidate should be interacting with high-level donors because they expect access to the campaign, to the candidate. They should be recruiting more help. Now, if there's a whole pile, and this happened to me in Massachusetts one time, I went to meet with the state senator to see how he was doing, and he had stacks of envelopes, and he was sitting there folding envelopes and putting them in there. And I said, let me ask you something. He said, yeah. He goes, is this a matter of money? He said, what do you mean? I said, do you have money to hire someone to do all this? And he went, and he was a wealthy guy. He was a trial lawyer, actually, he moved to Republicans. He went, I do have money. I said, hire this shit out. And he's like, and like a weight lifted off his shoulders. It's like, I don't have to do this anymore. Yeah, you need to go out and meet voters and get this stuff done. But what might he have to do? He might have to raise the money. Is that in his job description? Yes, it is. He can go do that. Or he might have to get volunteers. Is that in his job description? Yes, it is. He can go and get volunteers, right? And the last one is to get votes. Okay, next one. So the contrast is going to set the framework for what the choice is all about, right? So as Mark said, if they're thinking about your opponent's issues when they go into the voting booth, you're going to lose. If they're thinking about your issues. What was Ronald Reagan's question?
Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
Yeah, most people weren't. I'll tell you what, if Al Gore had said, aren't you better off today than you were 8 years ago? I think we went on a landslide. But he couldn't do it. Something about a blue dress, I don't remember what it was. But anyway, okay, so contrast sets the whole theme of the debate. It's about this. And we need to speak this way and let the left bear the burden of their responsibility, of their position, their own positions. You know, if I'm elected to the city council, that park down the street, I don't know the name of it, you know the name of it. Right now it's full of drug dealers, pimps, and prostitutes. Now, if you think public parks are for drug dealers, pimps, prostitutes, and homeless people, you have a candidate. It's my point. You should look at them. But if you think parks should be for families who can go safely there on any given day, like my mom brought me when I was young, then I'm going to clean it up. Now, I don't know why he wants to keep it. He says something about compassion. But I really want to understand what's compassion about letting a drug addict die outside? What's compassion about a mentally ill person who doesn't know where they are, dying outside? That's where they're going to end up. And they'll say, well, we need more money for them. Go talk to them. They're not enrolled They're not in the system at all. Go ask them. I've asked them, are you getting help or they're not in the system. So I don't see how it's compassionate to let people die outside. But my opponent apparently does, but you can ask him. I'll clean up the park. That's my contrast. And notice I took a moral high ground. I'm not hiding my position. I think I have the moral high ground on that. I think it's terrible to let people die outside. And that's what happens to them. All right. Next. So here it is. All of it. Right here. We have to assess the strengths and the weaknesses of our challenger. Be honest about their strengths. This is why Jack Kemp lost the debate to Al Gore. Because Jack Kemp put a bunch of yes people and said, well, you're going to clean the clock with him. And they ignored Al Gore's strengths. And Al Gore won that debate, like hands down. Be honest about your weaknesses. So we have to run against their weaknesses using our strengths. Write them all down. Why would people want to support me? What is it about me? And then they have to match the likes and the dislikes of the voter. That's where your contrast is. It has to be something that they like that he's not doing, or something they dislike that he's doing, and that you will change that. And so it's all very binary. I want to take you to the promised land. It's right over there. So let's go over there together. Oh, wait. There's an obstacle. It's my opponent. You know, if we just move this opponent out of the way, we could all get policies that I keep describing my vision and talk about these. Okay, next. Why do I want to create controversy in my campaign? I don't mean mean, scrunchy face yelling at everybody. I mean, what do I mean? Why do I want controversy?
Get people talking.
Hmm?
Get people talking.
Who's going to talk about it?
People.
How? How are they going to hear about it?
From word of mouth, talking to each other.
Yeah,
Hey,
that might
yeah.
be, but where else?
Social media.
The media.
Yeah.
Can the media cover you if you're boring?
Yeah.
Can the media, so let's say you announce, I'm running for city council, it's a big moment in the world. Why isn't all the media here?
It's said a million times before.
Because it turns out thousands of candidates run every year. It's not news. It's not even interesting, right? But what is interesting is the controversy that you can create. So pick fights with the defenders of the status quo. And let me tell you, there's a lot of status quo in this city, right? Fight against it. All right. Next slide. So you got to learn to nail your message in 30 minutes, like in a speech, or 5 minutes when you get just a quick introduction, or 1 minute when you just get perhaps introduced, or 30 seconds when the reporter comes up and sticks a microphone in your face, right? You want to know what I'm saying all the time, and I'm talking to voters and how I'm going to be persuasive, or 10 seconds. You must be disciplined. And I'll talk more about this in my next presentation about how to handle media. Next. Okay. This will all make sense. Now, it was already mentioned today that the six steps of political persuasion, the first thing you have to get people to understand is your name, right? They cannot vote for you if they don't know your name. Just checking, does everybody agree here? Like, Jimmy Carter spent a lot of time getting his name on the ballot as Jimmy and not James. Because people in Georgia would have come out of the polling place, well, I wanted to vote for Jimmy, but I just didn't see his name on the ballot, so I voted for that other guy, right? So they got to know your name. How can I get people to remember my name? Simple. What?
Slogans.
Yeah, slogans. What else?
Marketing.
Advertising. What else? Advertising like on what?
Like in newspapers,
Yeah.
radio, media,
Signs.
signs.
Political signs. That's what those are for. They're for name ID only. We don't put our whole platform on the sign, right? Because people are not going to read all that. They're just now in New York, your signage is a little different than it is out in the countryside, but right, that's what those are for. Bumper stickers, right? How about name tags? You're all wearing them. Well, some of you are, right? We wear name tags. As a candidate, we wear name tags everywhere we go. right? We don't assume. I worked for Newt Gingrich for more than 10 years. I never once watched him not introduce himself to somebody as, "Hi, I'm Newt Gingrich." And a lot of times it was, "Of course I know who you are," right? But he never assumed that someone knew who he was in. You can't believe the number of people who introduce themselves and think that everybody knows who they are, and they don't. Always introduce yourself. And then when you're introducing yourself, be intentional. Now I'm gonna do a little exercise. You tell me what I'm doing wrong. Okay? Here we go. Oh, hi. 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 I see that all the time. People go down, "What did I do?"
You didn't introduce yourself.
One, I introduced myself. And two, if you notice, I was looking in her eyes while grabbing her hand. I was on to the next, and I just told everybody at that table, "You're the least important person I've ever met." Instead of being intentional. "Hi, I'm Rick Tyler. I'm really glad to know you. Thank you for coming."
And I think you
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
Yeah, right. Eye contact. Say your name. Be intentional. Look at them directly and use. So when I teach public speaking, I teach people how to stare at people just a little too long until it's uncomfortable. And when we do on-camera techniques, you have to do that because you can't look away from the camera. But it's really bizarre just to talk to someone for so long and never look away, right? But it's a good exercise. Do it with your family. It's kind of fun. Newt and I would do it on the plane. We would fly around private, and he'd sit here, and I don't know why, he would just stare. And I was like, "Game on." We would stare for 5 minutes. And so sometimes, anyway, so they gotta know your name. Image. Mark mentioned this too. It turns out, this may surprise some of you, people will vote for people they like. Is that shocking? Yeah. So, be likable. What are some ways to improve your image?
Appearance, your dress.
Yes, absolutely. Attention to detail. So like when you're addressing, I like to dress, so I know I was coming to New York today, so I knew it was a Saturday, so not all of you are gonna wear ties. Thank you for wearing a tie. But I thought, I'm gonna dress a little bit, just to cut above, just a little bit, right? But would I go to the Iowa pig farm like this? No. I would dress a cut above. I don't wanna look like a farmer. I'm not a farmer, so I don't pretend to be a farmer, right? But I wanna look nice. I wanna look presentable. So I'm controlling my image. What else?
Smile.
Yes! Thank you so much. Smiling is so important. And when you go on television for the first time, they introduce you, be smiling at the camera and mean it and be happy and say, "Thank God I get to talk to all these people. This is great. I love it." Right? Because when people get that first initial reaction from you, they decide right away whether they like you or not. Right? How about this? When a politician comes into a room, okay, I'm gonna do, I don't want anybody to be offended, but I'm gonna do Rand Paul. I'm gonna walk in, no, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna do Rand Paul. Rand's my buddy, but this is Rand. Like, stop it. Right? This is my buddy Rick Perry. "Hey, how you all doing? Oh, hey, I'm so glad you came. Hey, look at you. I knew you'd be here. It's great, right?" He makes everybody in the room feel like $1 million. You know who's the best person at this? Bill Clinton. Like, it was sick. That guy was like a genius, Paul. I don't care who you are or what your ideology is. If Bill Clinton was in this room right now, we'd be breaking out the cake. I'm just telling you that's the way it is. Right? He was just so good personally. Right? You can get better at it. If it's not your natural instinct, figure out how to control and summon the energy to be likable. All right? Guess what? If they know my name and they like me, I have permission now, not before, to start talking about the things I care about, the issues in my campaign. I didn't before. You don't walk up to someone's door, knock, 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 "Hi, I'm pro-life and you should be too." "Yeah, I'm Fred." Right? That's weird, right? We don't do that. We want people to know. This has to be done in order. This is why the councilman was saying start early, get them to know your name. Once they get to know your name and they like you, then you can start talking about issues. the first part of your campaign, you're not gonna go out and change the world in your issues. You're just trying to get known and liked and trusted. Then we have permission to talk about issues. So if we start talking about issues, and you've done your research your issues, you know the voters already like them, and then you provide the contrast of why. Now we can provide the contrast. Notice we're at step 4. We didn't come out and say, my opponent's an idiot, and if I get elected, I'll abolish Department of Education, and he'll be gone, and that's that, right? And everybody's like, ooh, this guy's a freak. No. Hey, Rick Tyler's here. You're gonna love this guy. He talks about education in such a positive way. I just want you to hear him. And then, our guy's not doing, the guy in there's not doing that. Now, if you do all these things successfully, name, ID, image, issues, contrast, what's gonna happen to you?
You're attacked
Yeah, why?
because you're doing too well.
Yeah.
Gotta slow you down.
You know why? Because the left never attacks ineffective Republicans. They just come up and they pat you on the head and they say, you're such a wonderful Republican. Why can't they all be like you? Ineffective, right? Because when you're successful, is this the best day of your campaign or the worst? It's the absolute best. It's everything you have worked for. You've gone through all this process to get attacked. Sorry. So when you're attacked and you're mentioned in the newspaper, hold it high and say, now it starts. Victory's on the way. Because before, people can't pay attention to it. They don't know the difference between you and I. Now the media is going to report it for you. That's why you have to be in that story. I'll explain that in my next presentation. Very important. And that all leads to get out the vote. Why? Because if you're going to do like a voter ID at the beginning of your campaign, no one's going to vote for you. They're going to say, I don't know, Rick Tyler, never heard of him. Now, after all that, you get through, you pay for this voter ID campaign, and you wasted all that money, and all you got is, I don't knows, the other guy, and maybe, you got nothing. Who are you going to turn out? You can get anybody on the list. But if you do this, and they understand what this campaign's about, they understand there's a contrast, they understand there's a difference, they understand that voting for Rick Tyler makes a difference in my life. You're damn right when they say, hey, will you vote for Rick Tyler? Yes, I'll vote for Rick. Now I got one on my list. Now I got the one on my list. And then you get all of those people on your list. And by the way, if you're a candidate and you're out there, everybody you meet, and I mean this literally, you need to have the name of everybody you meet. You need to get someone, which is why, this presentation we heard earlier is she's got a way to collect those names. But you need to get people and get their names and listen to them. Make notes about them. I'll tell you what, if you do a get out the vote card and it says, how did your son do in Little League baseball this season? Because of a conversation you had once, you will blow it out of the water. They will say, what? You remembered that conversation? Hey, how are your petunias doing this year? Are you going to take your antique car to the rally on Sunday? Well, all these just little notes, just little things just to get that you listen about something in their lives and you cared enough about it. Now, you didn't remember, you wrote it down, but you had enough sense to say, I need to write this down because I want to care about it. And you do care about it. Okay, I think we're done, but let's see. Next slide. Yeah, don't avoid conflict. You need a good idea that someone will oppose. Get back on offense once you're attacked. Next. Next slide. Mid-deep in their campaigns. In a movement, we have to understand where we're going today by what we've decided we want to get done within 5 or 8 years. So please have long-term plans, right? This city needs a long-term plan. This party in the city needs a long-term plan. You can get there, but you won't if you don't think about it. Next. Design about future realities. How many have seen a robot deliver pizza yet? Anybody? I did in Estonia. There it goes, a pizza going on the road. All by itself on a robot right there, right? The future is coming. The left is afraid of the future. They're always defenders of the past. It's interesting because they call themselves progressive, right? They're always defending the status quo. So when Uber came to town, what did they do? They fought it, right? So they always do that. But we have to anticipate AI, right? Is artificial intelligence, right? People are scared. It's not. There can be scary things about it. It's the greatest thing that can happen to your campaign. Right? Yeah. It's going to produce content. You're going to love it, right? You'll still have to edit it, make it sound like you, but use it as a tool, right? We can do that. So think about how the future reality is and how we can have the positive. Here's the thing, I think for too long we've tapped into the demons of change, and that's very easy to do, right, in public policy. I want you to tap into the better angels of our nature in public policy. What are the opportunities? Because with every opportunity, the history of this country is that every wave of immigrants that's come, every obsolescent technology, it's always gotten better, richer, the food is way better, on and on. So let's talk about the positive opportunities of those. And with that, I'm done.
So just really quick, does anyone have one quick question for Rick? I know we're very pressed on time. Rick, that was an incredible presentation. Thank you so much for leadership and stewardship. You highlighted some really great things. Before Mark goes up to share secrets of successful campaigns, I wish I knew that before when I ran for city council, but you guys get to use this and apply it. I was going to share the cards that you have on your table on the reverse side. Rick is right. New York City needs help, and we're trending in the right direction. If you see this card, you flip it over. You take a look at the graph. The turnout increases from 2018 to last year with Lee Zeldin's campaign. Republican turnout is up 62% in the city. Remember, we are building off of that momentum this year for city council races. So if it's okay with you, we're clearly gonna run over, but not by much. If you guys can stick around for 30, 45 minutes max, I'm gonna have Mark go, and then we just have a little bit more from Rick, and Maureen will close us out with high-level overview of fundraising. So please, guys, bear with us. I give you Mark Campbell. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rick.